You spend 20 minutes perfectly explaining a task. Beep. You get the details just right. The formatting is flawless. Then you wake up the next morning. You open a new chat window. And it has completely forgotten who you are.
Yeah, it's the classic amnesiac chatbot problem. I mean, we've all been there.
It's incredibly frustrating, honestly. You're basically training a new employee from scratch every single day.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're shifting away from those temporary AI chats. The goal today is building a permanent, living environment. We're calling it a cowork operating system, and we're doing it using Claude Projects.
So we have a really fascinating journey mapped out for you today. First, we'll clearly define the difference between standard Claude chat and this new cowork concept. Then we'll unpack the underlying architecture. It relies on 3 surprisingly simple text files that give the AI persistent memory. After that, we're mapping out structured workstations. And finally, we'll look at the advanced workflows to keep this whole system incredibly fast and cheap. Before we jump into the mechanics, I have to confess something. I still catch myself pasting the exact same 5-paragraph instruction prompt every morning. I'm just so conditioned to the old way of working. I still wrestle with prompt drift myself.
Listen, it makes complete sense that you do. We've all been trained over the last few years to treat AI like a disposable tool. You use it, you close the tab, and it vanishes. But to build a true AI operating system, you have to completely change the environment. We need to start by looking at the 3 distinct flavors of Claude that currently exist.
Right. Let's break down that baseline. We need to understand the environment before we can build the system.
Exactly. So first, you have Claude Chat. This is the web browser version everybody knows. It's great for doing some quick market research. It's helpful if you just need to draft a quick apology email to a client. But it starts fresh every single session. It has absolutely zero memory of what you did yesterday.
It's essentially a blank slate every time you hit enter.
Yeah. Then you have Claude Code. Now, this is a very different beast. It's a terminal-based tool built specifically for developers.
Meaning a text-only screen where programmers type direct system commands.
Precisely. It connects directly to a software code base. It can actually autonomously edit files, run tests, and execute commands. But it's highly specialized for software engineering. It's definitely not built for your general day-to-day workflow.
So if chat is entirely temporary and code is strictly for programmers, there has to be a middle ground, something built for persistent, everyday knowledge work.
And that brings us to the 3rd flavor, Claude Cowork. This is the actual desktop application. It's engineered specifically for long-term compounding workflows. The true magic here isn't just the AI itself. It's the ability to natively mount local folders from your computer. It maintains a persistent, evolving memory. And it uses external connectors to link directly to your existing tools, things like Gmail, your Google Calendar, or your Notion databases.
Okay, let me try to contextualize this. Standard Claude chat is basically a temp worker. They show up, do a decent job, but they get a complete memory wipe every single night. It's literally like that movie 50 First Dates. Beat. But cowork is fundamentally different. It's like hiring a full-time partner. You're giving them a dedicated desk. You're giving them a permanent filing cabinet.
That desk analogy is perfect. You're giving the AI a physical home on your machine. It doesn't exist in a vacuum anymore. It has a spatial awareness of your digital life.
But that raises a pretty massive privacy concern for me. Does mounting a local folder mean the AI is just freely reading everything on my computer? Is it scanning my personal photos while I sleep?
No, absolutely not. The permissions are strictly ring-fenced. It only reads the specific folder you explicitly mount and allow inside the application. It has zero access to the rest of your hard drive.
So it's a fenced-in playground, not a master key to my hard drive.
Right. You dictate the boundaries. It only sees what you place inside the fence.
Now that we understand cowork acts like a dedicated filing cabinet, we need to know what actually goes inside those folders. How does it physically remember us?
This is where it gets genuinely fascinating. You would think an advanced AI operating system requires massive, complex databases. But the whole system runs on a surprisingly simple architecture. You literally just need 3 plain text files sitting inside a root folder. We'll call that master folder your cowork OS.
Just 3 files. I mean, that feels almost too simple.
Yeah, but they're just markdown files.
Meaning basic text files with simple formatting headers and bullet points.
Right. There's no complex programming logic, no Python scripts. The first file is called claude.md. Think of this file as the master operating manual, or the global routing map. When you open a new session, this file tells Claude what to load and where to look.
It establishes the fundamental ground rules for how it should behave.
Yes, and it has 3 core components: First is the memory system itself. It instructs Claude to always check your past context before answering. Second is the routing map. This prevents the AI from guessing. If you ask a question about your taxes, the map routes it straight to your financial folder. Third, you have references. These are pointers that tell Claude where to find extra context, but only when it actually needs it.
2 sec silence. I really have to push back here. It feels wild to me. The absolute cutting edge of artificial intelligence relies on basic text files from the 1990s to function. And the sources are very strict about this. They say we absolutely must cap this claude.md file at 300 lines. Why cap it? If this is my master operating manual, why not dump every single rule, preference, and workflow I have in there?
It's a really common trap people fall into. To understand the cap, you have to understand how token limits actually work under the hood.
Meaning the maximum amount of text the AI can process simultaneously.
Think of it like the AI's cognitive battery power for a single conversation. Your large root files load every single time you start a new session. Every time you say hello, Claude has to silently read that entire claude.md file first. If your manual is 20 pages long, it slowly drains your token limits before you even start working. It costs more money, it severely slows down the response time.
Leaving barely any processing power to actually complete the task I asked for.
Exactly. You're giving it cognitive overload. That's why you keep that main routing file under 300 lines. It should be a traffic cop, not an encyclopedia.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So if claude.md is the traffic cop, what's the second file handling?
The second file is memory.md. This functions as your running ledger. It holds your active, ongoing projects and your saved personal preferences. This specific file is the magic ingredient that stops your conversations from starting at zero every day.
It's the actual continuity mechanism.
Yeah, it tracks the reality of your current work. We usually split it into 2 sections. One section tracks active projects, so it knows your upcoming newsletter is currently in the rough draft stage, and you're struggling with the conclusion. The second section tracks granular preferences, like knowing a specific client absolutely hates bullet points and prefers numbered lists.
Okay, and the third file in this architecture?
That one is called voiceprinciples.md. We usually drop this into a subfolder called resources. This file's entire job is teaching the AI exactly how you write and communicate.
We'll definitely dig into that voice file in a minute because sounding human is huge. But first, just managing these individual markdown files sounds potentially messy. If I'm manually editing text files all day, I feel like I'm stepping backward in productivity.
That's a totally valid concern. And it's why a lot of power users rely on an app called Obsidian. It's a completely free markdown editor. You don't have to migrate anything. You just open your existing Cowork OS folder as a vault inside Obsidian. It instantly gives you a beautiful visual interface. You can easily view, link, and manage all these text files in one clean dashboard.
But practically speaking, do I have to manually open that dashboard and type into memory.md every single time I finish a task? That feels like a lot of friction.
No, not at all. That's the beauty of the system. You just tell Claude in your normal chat window to remember this. The AI takes your natural language instruction, reformats it, and silently writes it to the markdown file automatically.
You just talk to it and it updates its own memory notes.
It completely removes the administrative burden. You just do your work, and the system documents itself.
Okay, so the AI can take its own notes. But let's circle back to that third file. How do we actually stop it from sounding like a generic, overly enthusiastic robot? And as we scale this up, how do we keep it from mixing up completely different parts of your life?
Those are 2 separate but incredibly important challenges. That's where the voice system and the concept of workstations come into play. Let's tackle the voice system first.
How do we actually build that voice principles file without it taking weeks of training?
Well, you have to feed the AI real historical examples of your authentic writing. If your Gmail is already connected to your Cowork app, you can literally just have it analyze your last 50-cent emails. If you don't want to connect your email, just copy and paste 5 to 10 past articles or reports you've written right into the chat.
You ask it to reverse engineer your tone.
Yes, but here's the critical failure point for most people. Vague rules fail miserably. If you tell Claude to be warm and professional, you're going to get terrible, generic AI output. It'll sound like every corporate memo ever written. You have to extract highly specific mechanical rules. You tell it, keep paragraphs under 3 sentences. Or you instruct it, never use passive voice and avoid exclamation points.
Because specificity is what creates repeatable behavior. A machine doesn't understand warmth, but it perfectly understands a maximum word count.
And it's an iterative process. Over the first few weeks, you'll catch it making mistakes. You correct the output. You tell it to remember that specific correction. Over time, that voice principles file evolves into a living, incredibly accurate record of your actual
So
voice.
that solves the robot tone. What about keeping my life organized?
That requires building out workstations. Think of workstations as dedicated subfolders for specific domains of your life.
I really like comparing workstations to the rooms in a physical house. You wouldn't keep your kitchen blender sitting on your bed. It makes no sense.
Okay.
Similarly, your highly confidential mortgage refinancing notes absolutely shouldn't bleed into your weekly creative writing drafts.
That's a brilliant way to conceptualize it. You need structural boundaries. And we generally see two distinct types of workstations you can build within this system.
So if one type handles broad categories, what does a universal workstation look like?
Universal workstations cover broad functional areas that touch multiple parts of your life. And Email HQ is the perfect example. You send emails for your day job, for your personal life, maybe for side hustle clients. The core rules of what makes a good email for you, like your sign-off and formatting, apply everywhere. So that lives in a universal folder.
And the second type, I imagine it's something highly siloed.
Right. Dedicated workstations. These cover one highly specific contained domain. A folder strictly for personal finances. A folder dedicated to a complex, upcoming international trip. Or a folder locked down for one specific client launch.
And each one of these individual workstations gets its own isolated setup.
Yes, each dedicated workstation gets its own local claude.md file and its own localized memory.md file. The structure perfectly mirrors your main root folder, but the rules inside only apply when you're actively working inside that specific space.
Let me test the logic here. If I create a really fantastic rule for formatting emails inside my finance workstation, should I copy-paste that rule up into my universal email HQ?
No, never duplicate. You should never repeat global rules in multiple places across the system. It's a core design principle. Duplicate rules waste your token limits, and worse, they cause inconsistent AI behavior when the system tries to reconcile two slightly different versions of the same rule.
Write the rule once at the highest level. Never duplicate it.
Exactly. It keeps the entire architecture clean, efficient, and predictable.
Sponsors hearing.
Okay, so we've built the house, we've furnished the individual rooms with workstations. What does actually living and working inside this system look like on a random Tuesday afternoon? And crucially, how do we pay the electric bill? Meaning, how do we manage the token costs so we don't go broke running this thing?
Let's look at some advanced daily workflows. When you integrate those external connectors, the capability skyrockets. The first amazing use case is automatic meeting follow-ups.
Walk me through the actual mechanics of that. How does it happen?
Imagine your Google Calendar is securely connected to Cowork. You also use a standard tool that records and transcribes your Zoom meetings. You simply open your chat and ask Claude to handle the follow-up for your 2 p.m. meeting.
Just one simple, natural language request.
That's it. Claude pings the Calendar API to see who is in the 2 p.m. slot. It pulls the WA transcript from your local folder. It reads the entire conversation, identifies the agreed-upon next steps, and figures out who is responsible for what. It then dynamically routes to your Email HQ workstation to grab your communication rules. Finally, it drafts a perfectly formatted follow-up email using your exact tone, all from one single prompt.
That is incredible leverage. What about applying this to project management? The sources mention Notion.
Notion auto projects are a huge unlock. Let's say you tell Claude you're traveling to Boston for a tech conference in June. Claude automatically connects to your Notion workspace. Because it checks your memory file, it already knows exactly how you like your travel properties formatted. It knows you like a column for confirmation numbers and a separate view for daily itineraries. It builds the complete customized travel board autonomously.
It's not just generating text anymore. It's generating customized software environments based on my historical preferences.
Precisely. But if you want to see the true power of persistent memory, the finance tracking is where it gets really wild.
Tell me about the finance workstation. How is that different from just using a spreadsheet macro?
Whoa. Beat. Imagine it just silently watching a messy folder of bank statements. You literally just drop raw PDF statements into the mounted folder. It instantly reads them. It categorizes an entire year of transactions. It groups your software subscriptions, your travel expenses, your dining out. Then it generates a clean Excel summary. It's doing hours of tedious manual data entry in seconds.
But AI hallucinates. What happens when it inevitably makes a mistake? What if it categorizes a business lunch as a personal grocery expense?
You just correct it once in the chat. You say, hey, anything from this specific restaurant is a business expense. Remember this category rule. It instantly writes that logic to the local memory.md file inside the finance workstation. It will never make that specific mistake again. The system actually learns.
2-sec silence. That is genuine compounding leverage. But processing dozens of PDFs, reading calendar APIs, managing Notion databases, doing all of this continuously must cost an absolute fortune in API credits.
It definitely can. If you aren't careful with your architecture, you need strict cost control measures in place. And the biggest secret to keeping the bill low is intelligent model selection.
Explain how we manage that. Are we restricting what it can do?
Not restricting, just optimizing. You should use Claude 3.5 Sonnet for 80% of your routine tasks. Sonnet is incredibly capable, it's very fast, and it is significantly cheaper to run. You save the heavier model, Claude exclusively for highly complex multi-step reasoning tasks.
So, Sonnet is for the daily grind, sorting the emails, summarizing the transcripts. Opus is for the heavy lifting, like analyzing a complex legal contract.
Exactly. You don't need a supercomputer to draft a calendar invite. And the other cost-saving measure brings us back to those text files. Keep your root instructions ruthlessly short. Let the routing map pull detailed context from deeper subfolders only when it is actually needed for the task at hand.
Before we wrap up, the sources mentioned a specific habit to build. What exactly is a session audit before closing a chat window?
It's a really powerful, simple prompt to use at the end of your day. Before you hit the close button and wipe that temporary context window, you just ask Claude to scan our current conversation. You ask it to find anything worth saving to the memory files and update them.
It's a quick debrief to ensure nothing valuable gets forgotten.
Exactly. It ensures the system keeps learning and compounding without you having to sit there doing manual data entry or trying to remember what you discussed 3 hours ago.
This whole conversation really highlights a massive shift in how we interact with machines. We're looking at a profound paradigm shift. For the last 2 years, everyone has been obsessed with finding the perfect combination of words. The age of obsessing over individual prompt engineering is ending.
It really is. The focus on the magic prompt was a symptom of temporary AI. We're entering a completely new era.
The new era is context engineering. The ultimate utility of artificial intelligence no longer depends on perfectly wording a single prompt in an empty chat box. It depends entirely on building an organized, logical folder infrastructure around the AI.
It's about building a robust foundation. If the foundation is solid, the AI does the heavy lifting effortlessly.
Your Cowork OS is essentially a living database of your professional life, and it compounds in value over time. Every single session, every single correction teaches the system a little more about how you operate and how you think.
And that's the most beautiful part of this entire framework. You don't need a perfect, massive system on day one. In fact, you shouldn't try to build one. You just need a working system.
Yeah. So here is your call to action for today. Start incredibly small. Build just your master root folder. Set up your claude.md file. Maybe add 2 simple workstations, perhaps an email HQ and a project folder. Get comfortable with how the active memory talks to the routing file.
Yeah, let your real, actual daily needs dictate the structure. Don't build elaborate workstations you don't actually use just because they look nice in a folder tree.
It all comes back to that initial frustration we talked about at the start, the amnesiac chatbot. You don't have to live with a tool that forgets you every single morning anymore. You can build a system that actually remembers.
Right. You're building a permanent partner.
But stepping back, it leaves us with something much deeper to consider. If this persistent compounding system perfectly mimics your writing style over time, if it learns your organizational habits and begins anticipating your decision-making processes, will there come a day where you actually forget where your natural workflow ends and the AI's structural influence begins? Beat. What happens when your artificial coworker knows your own habits and preferences better than you do?